guys, it's Sam. Yes, you're on my other channel, but I have not had the daylight lately to film personal videos, so you're getting my year in media for 2020 in front of my shelves. So this is definitely inspired by the podcast Snark Squad, which is run by two of my friends, Maddie from My Name is Maddie Inez and Nicole Sweeney, and they basically run down their year in media. Now, they do a lot more media stuff than I do. Mine is a much smaller list, but this allows me to talk about the other media that I ingested. I always say ingested for some reason. In 2020. So this is going to be TV, video games, and movies. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I kind of did this in order, like a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we'll skip around and well, let's do TV first. So first we have the Witcher Netflix series. This was the first thing that I watched in 2020. And this was a delight. This was a good time. I give this a thumbs up because I went in with very low expectations. I mean, I watched this a little bit after everyone else because this came out late 2019 and I didn't watch it until like January 2020, maybe into February even, but I really enjoyed this. I love the Witcher video game, The Wild Hunt, which is the one that I've played. So I enjoyed the world. I haven't read the books or anything though, but I was like, ooh, I don't know about this TV show. We were seeing stills of the set and of the costumes and stuff before it came out and it looked crappy. And then the show came out and it was actually really good. I liked the soundtrack. Henry Cavill as Geralt was great. Yennefer was like, but like, it wasn't perfect, but I still really liked a lot of it. And I am very excited for the rest of the series. I'm gonna keep watching it. I only plan on watching the show and playing the video games. I don't want anything to do with the books really. I've just decided to not, even though I'm sure they're really great. I'd rather not, you know, have one world in 3 different media forms. That's just a lot for me. But the show is a good time. The show I watched after that was The Mandalorian season 1. I have not watched season 2 yet. And this was such a balm to my soul after The Rise of Skywalker, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I watched this shortly after watching The Rise of Skywalker, which I watched in January. And I think I watched this like February, maybe March. And it was just, it was good. I liked it, you know? It was a delight. It was that like classic Star Wars feel, but it was more separated from like the canon Star Wars stuff going on, but still enough Star Wars classic throwbacks and things. Like I really dig it. And like Pedro Pascal is just so good. And Baby Yoda, like of course I fell in love with Baby Yoda like as soon as I saw it. Even though I had seen like a bunch of the memes and a bunch of the gifs and things like that of him before, as soon as that little baby appeared on screen, I just fell in love. So yeah, I dig a space western, and this is exactly what this is. So had a fantastic time with this. Then we have The Umbrella Academy season 2. This was something that I would have watched in what, like summer, I want to say? And this was like, I think I talked about The Umbrella Academy season 1 probably last year in my video, so I'll link that if you guys are interested in my 2019 video. But this was not my favorite. I loved the first season of Umbrella Academy. It was just like my trash show. It has a ton of problems, like obviously I've talked about it on this channel, but like still just something got me. But this second season, I didn't really love it until the last 3 episodes of the season. I just thought it was much slower. I know a lot of people like liked it more than the first season. I just didn't. I thought that having the siblings separate again was like, oh god, and like it was just not what I wanted to do again. And yeah, there were just some things that made the problems that I had with it a little bit more like stark this season, but I'm excited for the 3rd season. Like the last 3 episodes, really good, pulled me back in. Really want to watch the next season, but again, right in the middle for me. And lastly, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, I did not get very far into this at all. I've been meaning to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender for years. Just years. And I keep not doing it. I'm just really bad about TV. Like, again, these are the only TV shows I watched during a full quarantine. Like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I got about like halfway through season 1, I want to say, and I know I'm getting to the parts where it gets better and I can be more invested as an adult, but this is my first time watching it. I've never seen it before. I know a lot about it. I know a lot of the plot points, but like, I know I'm going to like it once I just like get some traction in it, but I don't love it yet. If you were wondering what kind of bender I would be in the world though, absolutely Earth. Okay, next let's get into movies since I already alluded to some movies. First is Rise of Skywalker. Ugh. This I watched in January, very late because I had heard a lot of the mixed reviews about it, and yeah, I like hated it. Which is surprising actually, because I don't go into Star Wars with like super high expectations, but I really liked this new trilogy. Like, I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I wasn't like obsessed with it, but I really liked it. I really loved The Last Jedi, even with some of its like issues with some of the story stuff going on. So I was like, ooh, yes, they have all these things that they can do, and as everyone knows by now, it's like old news, but they just didn't take it in any good directions, and I was not someone who was pulling for a certain ship. It's nothing about that. It's just that the whole plot of the last movie was just like, where did this come from? Where's the foreshadowing for a lot of this? Why is this the main villain? For like no reason? Where did he come from? And like the characters didn't feel like themselves anymore, and it was just very odd, and it's like, man, it just shows that this trilogy was just a hot mess because it was having like different directors every movie and like no consistency, and it's a shame because everyone involved in those movies kind of got screwed, and like they just didn't know what they were doing, like not the actors, like the people behind the scenes. Like it was just a lot. So yeah, I was mad, and I went in expecting it to be bad, and it was still like really upsetting. So that's why The Mandalorian soothed my wounds. And then the next two movies I watched were just like happy, wonderful joys of emotion for me. The first is the 2020 Emma, and I love this movie. It's one of my new favorite movies. I watched it back to back when I rented it at the very beginning of quarantine. It is just a whole delight. I am not even a huge Emma fan. I mean, I love Clueless, which is like arguably the best Emma adaptation ever. However, for a traditional Emma adaptation, this one is my favorite. I loved the acting, I loved the costumes, I loved the like angsty knightly Emma relationship in this, like especially like there was more pining, and there's usually not like quite as much pining in Emma adaptations, but there was. And I mentioned this in another video on my other channel when I was talking about Emma, but this was like the juxtaposition for my favorite Pride and Prejudice retelling, which is the 2005 one. And this was like, that's a fall movie for me. This is a spring with all like the colors, like it's just so good. So now I own it on Blu-ray. I adore it. And in a similar vein, I also watched the 2020 Little Women, or maybe it was 2019. Did it actually come out in 2019? It came out right around the beginning of the year. And I adored this as well. I mean, everybody has, I mean, across the board. I was just in the mood for like a classic novel adaptation. I just recently watched Emma, and this was, yes, so good. Will I watch it again? Probably, but it's one of those movies that I'm just gonna be like, oh, it hurts. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, and it's supposed to. I've never read the book Little Women, so I don't have that kind of attachment to it, but I loved the acting. I like it. I still don't get the whole Timothée Chalamet obsession quite, even though he was like, I saw him in this and I'm like, ooh, you look like a Victorian child dying of consumption. But whatever, he's a good actor. But yeah, loved the women, the Little Women. Just very good. And lastly, we have video games. First, we have Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love the Assassin's Creed games. I loved this. Is this my favorite of all of them? No, but it's up there. It's probably like my top 3. I played Cassandra, obviously. I am still like a little angry about some things about this game. This isn't really like necessarily spoilers or anything, but as far as like romances in this game, not super well done. Like this series recently has added romances in, so I'm not shocked, but I don't love the romances, especially for a female character. And there was one romance that should have happened if you played the game. You should have been able to kiss Brasidas, and you can't. And that was like an injustice to me because his character is introduced by you fighting back to back as fellow Spartans, and like and you can't kiss. I'm absolutely not. I am angry. But overall, loved the story, and especially the main story. I do think that Assassin's Creed is getting a little bit too big and getting bogged down in the vastness of the world because there are so many side missions in this that are too much. I will say that like, yes, I love me, you know, like Skyrim and like Dragon Age Inquisition and all of those, and there are way too many side quests in there as well. Can we tighten back up the stories a little bit, guys? I have some video games that did that worked a little bit better here. So this was probably like probably my second favorite game that I played in 2020, but I didn't play a ton of games in 2020. I did this more towards the end of the year, but really liked it. I did replay Mass Effect in 2020 as well, but I'm not talking about that here because I talk about it all the time. Then we have God of War. The newer God of War, I think it came out in 2018. Now, this was my favorite game I played in 2020. This was just chef's kiss beautiful. It's a beautiful game. It's Norse mythology inspired. If you played the original God of War games, which I grew up on the PS2, this has so much callback to that, but you can also play as a new player. It's so good. I love it. There are some issues I still have with the game. Well, really like the world. The world is not very kind to its women, and they don't have a ton of agency, and there's a lot of like fridging of women, especially for like male motivation. So don't love that about the games, but they've always kind of had that, and this game has been better than the older games, but still not great. But oh man, Like the story and the mythology and the gameplay and everything, it was so good. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful game, and the world is big enough that you feel like you have a lot to do, but not so big that you get bogged down. I feel like all of the side quests like make a lot of sense and aren't just taking you on your way to like waste time. I like the powers, I like the different worlds you can go to, and I'm so pumped for the next game, which I don't know when we're gonna get that game, but I am ready. I am so excited. This was my favorite game of 2020. I did also start playing the Ghost of Tsushima in 2020, but at the very end, so I'm gonna talk about that in my 2021 wrap up. And lastly, I want to talk about a disappointment for 2020 in a game that I didn't even get to play yet, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. This is a game that I've been looking forward to since 2013, and as many of you know if you're in the gaming world, this game did not release well. They sort of seemed to rush it, which I didn't think was going to happen, and I was like so confident in CD Projekt Red, the gaming company that comes out with it, and they did not serve me well here. I did pre-order it, but people said it was basically unplayable on PS4, so I did return it, and hopefully sometime in 2021 I'll get to play it, because they'll have fixed it, but I have to wait, and I am definitely really sad about this because I've been looking forward to it. I was certain it wouldn't disappoint me, and then it did, and I haven't even played it yet, so that is sad, but one day. Comment down below, let me know about your year in media, your opinions about some of these things that I took part in 2020, and maybe some things that you did as well. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.